So welcome back to the SWAU channel. I'm Brian, your host, as always, for Collector's Spotlight. And we've had some great videos so far. So if you want to get in touch, please do. Contact me at b.gon@swau.com if you want to be featured on the channel. But this week, we've got a great guest. Not only is he a collector of holy grails, but he's also a stuntman. He's worked on Hypnotic, with Ben Affleck, The Last Airbender, and Blind Spot, to name a few. It's the wonderful Patrick King. Patrick, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, do you know what? I'm really, really excited. And everyone's going to be wondering what this Holy Grail is. And I'm going to make sure that we don't put it on the thumbnail, because this Holy Grail that we're going to be talking about, I've never seen before. I've never seen something like this before at all. And I've been in the collecting world for many decades. So this is quite a unique piece. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. But before we do, not only are you a collector, you actually work in the industry, and you've done quite a bit in the industry as well. So first of all, you're a stunt performer. So how on earth did that come about? How did you start in the stunt world?
So I went to school for acting. So I went to college for theater. My goal has always been to be a performer. So I was doing that for a very long time. I grew up pretty athletic. I played pretty much every sport. And it wasn't until I was 30 years old, I had moved to Austin, Texas. I'm from the East Coast originally. And I just randomly, it was when stunt performing was starting to be a little bit in pop culture. So you were getting a little bit more like, oh, that's really cool. It was like kind of in the behind the scenes of like DVDs, like bonus footages. Nowhere did I ever kind of realize how you would go to do that. So when I moved here to Austin, I went out on Facebook and I was like, is there a place to train for stunts? And I got connected with a group of people who were training. Eventually I met a guy who's been in the industry for a while. He took it upon himself to train me for about a year in stunt work. And we're going to talk about Marvel Universe Live in a bit, but that's kind of where I got my start. I auditioned for that show as I was starting my stunt training. And then I trained for a year. I went back to Marvel Universe Live and they immediately hired me, from that year of training specifically in stunt work.
That is awesome. I mean, we are going to talk about how to get into the industry in a second, but have you got a plan in place in what you want to achieve within the stunt world, on the type of films or projects you want to work on, or specifically any like stunt coordinators that you would love to work with?
Yeah. I've been lucky. I've been able to do some really cool stuff. And one of the things I do now, not just TV and film, but I do motion capture for video games. And that requires a lot of stunt work as well. I do pretty much all the movement and acting for those. That's kind of a dream job. So to work, I'm working on games, and I can't say the games right now because they haven't been announced, but I'm working on games that I have played, that I love. But in terms of in stunt work in general, anything Marvel related. I'm a huge, as you can see behind me, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I haven't gotten there yet, but to work with, like, I think the dream job would be to work on Deadpool and Wolverine. That's kind of, just a dream job. And you had mentioned one of the Gills. Andy Gill actually did. I think his brother did a lot of the Marvel stuff. I actually worked for Andy on a different film. He did a film called Jexy. So I was able to meet him and work with him on that one. But honestly, anything Marvel related. I've got a lot of good friends that I've worked stunts on Marvel stuff. And I'm waiting for my turn. That's all.
I mean, how competitive is it to get into? Because it's not something that you can just roll up and say, right, throw me down, a set of stairs. I mean, when I was younger, I used to throw myself downstairs all the time. It just didn't hurt. And obviously I was very lucky. But it's got to be quite a difficult industry to get into. And how competitive is it within the stunt community, with other stunt performers?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like any other kind of entertainment job. So when you think of acting or anything like that, it's highly competitive. And now with social media and pop culture, we kind of use the term like everybody wants to be a stunt performer, and they do. So there's a lot of people training. Basically, it's a mix of talent and luck with anything else. knew what I needed to do to get in, and that was train my butt off, make sure that I was, safety is number one. So we train to make sure that we stay safe and don't get injured, but also to take care of our partners. I actually got my start in pro wrestling. So I was a pro wrestler for a little while, and that was a great base for stunt work because not only are you taking the bumps and all the bangs and bruises, but you're learning to take care of your partner. So it's kind of like any other job. It's also the coordinators want to work with people that are professional and are kind of cool to be around on set. You know what you're doing. You're not a liability, and you're kind of fun to be around. So it's all about networking and making sure that you have the right skills and can protect yourself and your fellow performers.
That is excellent. I can't believe you started in wrestling as well. I mean, I've got to say, this stunt community, is it's been shoved in the limelight since the movie Fall Guy, and I don't know if you've watched that film, but as a film, I wasn't a massive fan, but from the stunts, it was like Christmas for me.
Yeah.
I mean, the stunts in that film was just incredible because I can remember being a kid watching the original Fall Guys series with Lee Majors and absolutely loving it. But what they did on that movie, I think, is incredible. And obviously, the documentary about the young man that was in Harry Potter that's been on TV, just highlighting what stunt performers put themselves through and what the chance, the risk. But on a lighter note, there are rumors that the Oscars might actually be opening up to stunt performers because it was always the case that it was never within one of the categories. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we could see a stunt performer getting a Oscar in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be amazing, and I think they do deserve the credit. I've been lucky where I'm not, most of my stunts are fighting and falls, and bad guy number 3 being shot. So, as much fun as it is, I haven't had to legit risk my life on any stunts. But performers get injured all the time, and you've, especially with the Fall Guy. I know they broke a ton of records. One was the car flip. How many rolls, and you are kind of putting yourself in controlled danger. You're hoping that everything goes well and that everyone is safe, but stuff happens, so you got to be prepared for that. And I think us as a community finally do need some recognition.
I mean, what is your shining moment to date within the stunt world? I mean, in that part of your career, I mean, what's been the moment that you're the most proud of?
It's so hard because each kind of avenue of performance has been a little different, because you've got TV and movies. We'll talk about Marvel Universe Live, which is a live stunt show, and then we've got kind of video game stuff, and they're all the same but different. One of the best jobs, and I would have to probably say Marvel Universe Live. I got to play Wolverine in that show. I got to perform for thousands of people in like jam-packed, sold-out arenas all across the world. And I got to play my favorite character. So, to be Wolverine, to go through, he's got this giant fight scene. I mean, there was no Pat King during that show. Like, that was Wolverine.
And we've got a picture there of what it sort of looked like. Did you just do? I mean, as we're talking about it, we might as well talk about the Marvel Universe Live now. It went around the world. So, was you involved with just America, or did you go around the world with it?
So they had two different iterations of the show. The first run, I think, did about 2 years in the U.S., and it did about 7 months in Europe. So I was lucky enough. This was, the show had kind of already started when I auditioned. And that's when, about a year later, I re-auditioned. And I was lucky enough to do the tail end of the US tour and then the whole European tour. So I got to travel to, I think, 16 different cities, maybe 10 different countries, all over Europe. And to be able to perform in a show like that as one of my favorite characters and get paid to travel around the world. I mean, you can't really beat that kind of job.
I was gutted because this show came to Nottingham, where I'm from, and I couldn't get tickets, and I really wanted to go and see it. So I'm really gutted that you was involved in that, and you know what I mean. I could
Yeah.
have seen you as Wolverine. We've got something quite in common actually, because I don't know how to explain this to anyone in the States, but here in the UK, we've got these sort of holiday resorts, a bit like Disney, but a bit lower budget, and we have characters that will do appearances. And I was one of those characters, and you never guess who I was.
I mean, I gotta guess Wolverine.
Here's a picture of me as Wolverine. There I am.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is me
How
as
fun is that though?
Wolverine.
Like,
I sweated so much in that outfit, and I've got to
Yep.
say, I did
Yep.
accidentally stab a few kids with those claws, which you had to be so careful. But you weren't allowed to speak or anything like that. So we had a Wolverine and we had a
Okay.
Cyclops
Okay.
that did meets and greets, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean,
That's so cool. How awesome does it feel to just put the suit on? You know what I mean?
oh. The suit was you had like the trousers that you put on, so you had all the muscles, and then you had if I'm right in saying, then you had to put on the torso and the arms that you had to put your legs through as well, because it went up between your legs.
Yep.
And then you put it on, so it was like a muscle suit, and then you put on the lycra
Yeah.
stuff, and it was just
Yep.
amazing. Once you had it all on and you were walking about, you felt unstoppable. You really did. And then when
Yeah.
you put that helmet on, it was just fantastic. It really was. But back in those days, I struggled with a stubble. And I know Wolverine is famous for a good stubble. So, you know, if I did it now, obviously I'm grey. So I'd have to dye it. But yeah, Wolverine is one of my favorite characters of all time. It really is.
Awesome.
But we're going to talk
Same.
about your Marvel adventures very, very soon. But let's talk about this Holy Grail, which when you sent me
Let's
a
do it. It's
photo
sitting right in
of
front of
this, yeah, when you sent me a photo of this, I was just in awe. Not only the time and effort it must take to collect all of these, but let me show a picture of what we are talking about. If I press the right button, it is, of course, the Gauntlet. And you know, the Infinity Gauntlet, and what an amazing gauntlet. First of all, where did you get this gauntlet from? Because we've got another view, and obviously it's on a glove. So if you could tell me a bit of a backstory story on how you decided to, you know, get this gauntlet and then start collecting these autographs.
Yeah, so it was kind of crazy. It started as a cosplay. So I way back when they started doing the the comic conventions, I was like, oh, people dress up. That's awesome. So I would go to the conventions. I would usually do I did Wolverine for a little bit until everyone started doing Wolverine, and then I decided to do Kraven the Hunter, and that's kind of been my cosplay go to. But I saw this. It was a prop that was on Etsy. And I saw this, it lights up. It looked really cool. I was like, well, let me get this. It was cheap. I was like, let me get it and use it for my cosplays. It'd be really cool to see Kraven the Hunter walking around with a gauntlet, or somebody, a Marvel character you wouldn't expect to have the Infinity Gauntlet. So I got it. I was using it. And this all started with Stan Lee. I was lucky enough to meet Stan Lee a couple times at these conventions. And I was like, I gotta get Stan Lee to sign this thing. I think that'd be really cool if he signed it. And I had him sign it on the back so I can still use it for cosplays. And after he signed it, I said, you know what? All the Marvel actors are starting to do these conventions. Let's just see how far I can take this. Let's see how many signatures I can get on this prop.
Do you know what? I've got to say, I mean, what a way to start off with the man himself, Stan Lee. First, I want to ask, what was that interaction like with Stan? Because, you hear so many rumors about, later in his life, people said that he was quite sort of rushed, and people around him was ushering him from place to place. Did you feel that, or what was the interaction like with the man himself?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to meet him, I think, about three different times. And I will say this, yes, it, at those conventions, it does feel a bit rushed because they are trying to get everyone through. Um, but meeting him, he could not have been nicer or kinder. He was everything that people say about him. He would look you in the eye. He was so happy to be there. Meeting him that many times, I truly understand and believe how much he cared for his fans.
Mm.
It was really, really cool to meet him, and he was nothing but kind to everybody.
One of my biggest regrets is not actually getting the chance to meet him because, you know, he just seems so nice and it's really refreshing to hear
Yeah,
your experience. But what a way to start, as I said at the beginning, your collection with Stan Lee. And I quite find it quite comical the fact that you said that you got it from Etsy and it was a good price and it was cheap, but then you've spent literally probably. I mean, we're going to talk about the value of everything in a second, but you must have
yeah,
spent an arm and a leg to get this thing signed. Which is
yeah.
incredible. I mean, on the picture there, I can see Robert Downey Jr.'s there.
Yep.
Is it Paul Rudd?
Paul
And
Rudd, Chris Pratt, Samuel L. Jackson. I mean,
uh,
I've got the list, but we're at 41 signatures with about five more pending.
wow, wow. And you know what? When they're
Yeah.
signing this, do you have to be quite careful? Do you have to tell them to be quite careful? Because I mean, I'm not sure what this gauntlet is made of, but I can imagine there are chances where someone's signing it where they could potentially damage another autograph.
Yeah, so I've been pretty lucky. They've kind of figured out over the years what works best on some stuff. So in the beginning, they didn't really know what to sign with, and I think one of the only signatures that I have that's kind of smudged is Mark Ruffalo, and I think he just happened to use the wrong marker, and that happens. But nowadays, so I just went to a convention and I was able to get a couple more signatures, and they knew exactly what pens to use. And everyone's pretty, every actor is pretty awesome in terms of handling it with care. Because as soon as they see it, they go, "Oh crap, this is something special." And they kind of ask me where to sign, and they're really cool about kind of handling it with care.
I mean, you've got some pictures here. When you said that, obviously, when you take them to show the stars, they're like, wow. I mean, there's a great picture there of Michael Rooker doing what Michael
Yep.
Rooker does best. Do you know what?
Yeah. What do you expect?
I didn't realize he was deaf in one ear. Apparently, I mean,
Oh, I
did you
didn't know
know
that.
that? Yeah, yeah.
I did not. Oh,
He
okay.
had a head injury of some sort. It was on the Michael Rosenbaum podcast, and he was saying that
Oh,
he
wow.
was
Okay.
deaf in one ear. Because when I met Louis Ferrego, the Incredible Hulk, I didn't realize he was
Yeah.
deaf in one ear as well, and I thought he was just ignorant and being rude, but. Now I'm thinking back, maybe he didn't hear me. So my
Yeah.
opinion of
Yeah.
him is completely changed now. So it's great to
Oh,
see
wow.
these
No, I didn't know that.
pictures with less autographs on it, so you can sort of chronicle your journey with these stars
Yeah.
on how much you've actually got signed, and then you've got a great picture here with Loki and Thor
Yeah.
themselves. What was that like meeting them two? Because good old Tom is a good British lad, and then obviously Chris from Australia. I mean, were they good to meet? Were they
Yeah.
good fun?
I mean, look at Tom's face. He was so excited to see this thing. He kind of lit up. And my experience has been with 90%, 98% of the people that I've been able to meet in person have been truly amazing. Like really, really awesome. Chris was great. They were two of the first. That convention was kind of my start. So after Stan Lee, there was a convention in Philadelphia where I got those two, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan. So that was all kind of in the same weekend. So that was after Stan Lee. Like this was kind of the starting group. They couldn't have been nicer. I mean, I can only imagine how hard these conventions are for some of the actors, but a majority of them are just kind of happy to be there.
But it's very lucky that you got them at the start, because I'm noticing these stars, the prices of these autographs that these stars are asking now are a lot larger than what they used to be.
Yes.
Because,
Yes.
for example, Aquaman. You know what? I need to.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, Jason Momoa. Oh my God, it's late here in the UK. Forgive me. And
Yeah.
he was like 30, 40 pounds in the UK, and then now, because he's been in all this stuff, you're looking at 200, 300 pounds, which is understandable, because the bigger the star,
Yeah.
the more it's going to cost, which is understandable to get them to these conventions. So it's very lucky
Yeah.
that
Of course.
you started with the majority of these at the beginning. So imagine now, it would be breaking the bank even more. And then we've got Mads here signing.
Yep.
Mads, lovely guy. I spent a bit of time with him in Chicago at C2E2
Nice.
the other month, and
Okay.
he was signing it as well. Do you know what? When I saw this picture, I've got to confess, I was thinking, what connection has he got to this gauntlet? And I had forgot.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He was in Doctor Strange, and
Yeah.
this is a guy who's a chameleon actor. I call him a chameleon because he's in so many different roles. Was he one of the 98% that you had a good experience with?
Oh, he was great. He was great. And you see these pictures of them signing. Nowadays, it was a little different back when I started. You can kind of like sneak a photo or ask them to take a photo, and now they're very strict at the table
Mm-hmm.
of taking photos and stuff. And I always ask, as they're looking at the gauntlet or signing, I say, excuse me, would you mind if I take a photo of you signing the gauntlet? I don't need a selfie, I don't need that stuff, but it'd be really nice to have a photo of you signing the gauntlet. And most of them were like, absolutely, this is so cool. And he was great. He was looking it over. He was like, where do I sign? But he found a good spot, and yeah, super, super nice.
That is good to hear. I mean, with all those autographs all on there at the moment and more to come, have you had this valued at all? On the cost wise of how much it's cost you. I mean, you don't have to give the exact amount, but roughly,
Yeah.
how much has it set you back to date?
So I have done all the math, and I always keep track. So I've kind of kept track from day one, and added up. It's a good amount. It's a good amount between just the autographs, and back in the day I was flying to different conventions, so I would fly all across the U.S. So you've got flights and hotels and admissions to the cons, and now with all the send-in signatures, you have the price and the mailing, all that stuff. It's I don't want to give a number because I'm gonna have
Is
it
it
appraised.
is it more than a car?
It's it's slightly less than a new car.
Okay,
We'll put it that way.
Slightly less than a new car. Have you got it insured? Because this is the thing. I've got quite a lot of expensive collectibles, and it always makes me wonder. Insurance with all your stuff that you've got. I mean, do you get it insured, and how difficult is it to get something like this gauntlet, insured if it is?
Yeah, I mean, I do have it insured, and for me, it was I don't know about the different kind of avenues to do it. For me, I kind of reached out to somebody I know in the kind of collectible auction world, and kind of said, how do I do this? So they were able to forward me, and I basically just had to describe it. It's a collectible. It cost me about this much, so they were able to put me on the right path. But yeah, I'm actually going to have it. Well, here's the thing too: is maybe I should ask you this, because I've been debating getting it appraised, because I think in the future it might be something that I would be willing to sell for the right price. But I don't want that appraisal to be lower than what I think it should be. Have you gotten anything, or have collectors gotten things appraised and then kind of regretted it?
Well, I think as a collector, because you've put all that effort in, you've put all that travel in and waiting in line and getting it signed. That to you is value, isn't it? That to you is giving your
Yeah,
impression
of
of how
course.
much it's worth. And then when you get it appraised, do they take in the fact of the cost of getting it all done? But then would it, add value that the fact that it's all on one piece? Yes, definitely. In
Yeah,
my opinion, it would add massive value. But there's no harm getting it appraised. I mean, SWAU do an appraisal service where they'll get all the autographs, look at them, and then come up with a price of what you potentially could get. But again, it's down to
okay.
who wants to buy it. You could have
Right,
someone out
exactly.
there that wants to, pay you a lot of money just to have that, and it's only, I suppose, as collectible as the people that want to buy it. But it's an incredible piece. It really is. Surely you don't want to get rid of it.
I mean, I'm gonna hang on to it as long as I can, just because it's been such a fun adventure, and I have been able to meet a majority of these actors in person, and that's been so cool. Especially once I mean, I started back before I kind of started stunt work, and now that I'm a stunt performer, if I have a chance to talk to somebody, Tom Holland, Chris Evans. I know I'm actually a stunt performer, and they go, "Oh my god." Um, funny story. One of the last signatures I got was Jamie Alexander, who plays Lady Sif
Mm.
in Thor, and I did stunts on her show Blind Spot. So, but we never worked together. So when I was at her table, before me just happened to mention Blind Spot, and I said, "Well, Blind Spot, I actually worked stunts on that show." And she was like, "Oh my god!" She's like, "Did I kill you?" And I was like, "Well, no, we weren't in a scene together, but I was shot a couple times in the show." And she goes, "Oh my god, that's amazing." That kind of connection was awesome. And then she was just in love with the thing. She's like, "This thing is so cool. This is amazing." Yeah, just to be able to mention that to kind of the Marvel actors and kind of say that we're in the same kind of world is pretty cool.
And it must be quite nice for the actors as well because they see the standard, Captain America shield, Thor hammer, and pieces like that. But this piece is it is one of a kind. It really is. Is there
Yeah.
a certain experience that will always stay with you through the journey of obviously getting this gauntlet signed? Is there certain star that you've met that really blew your socks off?
Man, that's so tough. They've all been really cool. I was able to meet Karen Gillian, who plays Nebula. That was kind of right after I'd gotten back from the Marvel Universe Live tour, so I had gone to Scotland. She was drinking. I'm gonna pronounce it incorrectly. Iron Brew,
Iron Brew,
Iron
yep.
Brow, the
Iron
soda.
Brew, yep.
Iron Brew. And I was like, "Oh, Iron Brew." And she goes, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "Well, I just got back from Scotland. I was doing a Marvel thing." Um, some of these interactions are so quick, but some of them can be so meaningful. And like
Mm.
I'm still a big nerd. I'm still a big geek, even though I'm in the industry. I really appreciate the work that these people do. Getting to meet Chris Evans, getting to meet Tom Holland, like I said. Even one of the best was Jamie Alexander, who I just met. Just being able to say, oh shit, okay, sorry if I cursed.
Yes, sir.
Andy Serkis.
Mm.
I met him, Andy Serkis. I met him recently, and I mentioned that I do motion capture, and his eyes lit up. And he's like, "Oh my god, isn't it the best job ever?" And I go, "It really is." So we had a nice moment, not just an actor, but a very specific part of acting in motion capture. We were able to connect, and that was really cool.
I think I've got a picture of you doing your motion capture. Let me just. There you are. I
Yep,
love seeing
yeah,
people in these outfits. It's like you've been hit with
yep,
hundreds of, tennis balls or ping pong balls. But it is quite
yeah,
difficult, isn't it? I mean, it is quite challenging to do. I'm chatting to Clive Standen in a few weeks, and he did the motion capture for the latest Warhammer game. because he plays Titus.
Yeah.
And you know, I was chatting to him beforehand, and he was just saying how challenging it is to do, because people just think that you just walk around and just capture it, but there's a lot of acting in it. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of stunts. It's so challenging, and Andy Serkis is one of these people that have made it just on another level. So now, thanks to him,
Yeah.
all the motion capture, you know, work now is just leveled up to the extreme. It really has, which is great to see, because you see that especially in the latest Planet of the Apes film.
Yeah.
So so obviously you've got your piece. It's all signed. You've got a few more to come. Once you hit that maximum and you've got no more space on that gauntlet, I'm really surprised that you've still got people to sign it. I can't see any space on it whatsoever. What's next? What are you going to get signed next? Or is it going to be, that's it, I'm finished, I'm done?
Yeah, I think both fortunately and unfortunately, I think when this is done, I think that might be the end of this adventure. You know, I'm using this gauntlet as, you know, I'm sticking to the Infinity Saga. So from movie number one all the way up to Endgame, anybody kind of contained in that is you know, who I would want on the gauntlet. At this point, all the work I put in, and even though it's been amazing, I don't think I can imagine getting another piece and doing it all over again. It'd be super fun, but I think this one has been enough. And there still are so many people ask me all the time, how many do you have left? And I go, hundreds. If you think about it, just the amount of people in these movies that you're not thinking of, like you were saying about Mads, the people you're not thinking of, I still got to get all them. So this is not even close to being over until I run out of room.
Who do you think is going to be the hardest to get that's left?
So I got real lucky when I started doing the mail-in, because I was able to get a lot of people that I don't think I ever would be able to. Robert Downey Jr., Samuel L. Jackson, Chris Pratt. You know, I'm sending it out soon for Bradley Cooper. The only original Avenger I don't have is Scarlett Johansson. So I think that's going to be right now probably the toughest. Unless anybody out there knows Scarlett Johansson, just let, you know, give her my number.
Yeah. Get in touch. Yeah, she is one of the ones that I think that if she did a signing, I think everyone's going to go crazy for, because if you look online, her autograph is silly money. It really is. And that's because she's so rare.
Sure.
It's a bit like Natalie Portman doesn't sign a lot at all. And I know SWAU's just got a great signing with her, which everyone is jumping on right now.
She's on my list. I'm already signed up.
Excellent. So when we were talking about celebrity encounters, I had an awful celebrity encounter with David Hasselhoff.
Oh no.
I know.
Okay.
Do you know what? I went to one of his book signings, waited for hours. Finally, I was second in the queue, got up there. He didn't lift his head, didn't say hello, signed the book and pushed it to the side. I left and actually put that book in the bin because it left me with a very sour taste in my mouth. Have you had any encounters like that on your journey where you just thought, you know what, they've signed it, but you know what, they could have done better?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, and I have to. It took me to understand and kind of sympathize with these actors, because you are doing a convention. You know, you might be tired. You know, who knows? You might be tired. Might not be in a great mood. You're here all day. You know, you might have talked to somebody. So I can understand them not being energetic or joyful. But I haven't, and luckily I haven't run into anybody who's just been rude. I've had a couple people who are just not energetic, maybe kind of over being there, but we're still, you know, able to force a smile. But you do hear about that stuff a lot of actors, you know, not lifting their head and just shuffling everybody through. So as much, I've grown kind of not to expect anything when I meet them. It's always really, really nice when they're engaging and energetic and happy. But if there's somebody who's just having a bad day, hey, I totally get it. Hopefully catch you next time.
So let's talk about Marvel trading cards, because behind you, you've got some amazing
Yeah.
images of Logan himself, which
Maybe.
I will go to a full screen so you can get a better
There we
view,
go.
which
Let's
is
see if we can maybe
astonishing.
take that up.
And before we started recording, you mentioned some really interesting facts about the actual artwork behind you, and nothing could be cooler than being able to say what you're going to say next. So what's special about those prints behind you?
Yeah, so those are actually the original paintings that were used to create Marvel Masterpieces 2020 Marvel trading cards. I was very lucky enough to model for 26 different characters on 28 different cards. Art by Dave Palumbo, who, if you don't know, is the son of Julie Bell, another famous Marvel artist. Yeah, just an incredible experience because I collected those cards growing up. Now to be able to be on Marvel trading cards.
That is astonishing, and you've got some there to show us. You
I've
have
got a few.
some.
So the two behind me are Deadpool and Wolverine. Those are the original paintings, and then these are the actual trading cards. So we've got the Deadpool there, and then we've got Wolverine hollow foil.
That is
So really cool to
awesome.
just kind of see myself, not only just to be able to portray these characters, but to see myself on these trading cards it's incredible.
That is great. I mean, when you mention like modeling for them, I presume you're doing the poses and then they're taking from the poses and then building on top of that. I mean, what was that experience like actually working on it? I mean, how did that look like? What did it look like? Working on these.
Yeah, so the artist was asked to do about 150 different cards, and he kind of chose out all the characters that he think I could do. I would have done them all. It was really cool because as an actor and performer, as a Marvel fan who knows these characters, it was amazing because he had sketches and ideas, and he would ask me like, well, how would this person move? How would they pose? So I was able to put a little input into it, but just seeing the sketches and then doing the poses of these characters. I got to do Captain America, who's kind of kneeling down in tribute of like fallen comrades. I got to do Iron Man and Green Goblin, the Punisher, and some other random characters. These are all characters I grew up with and know. So I was as much excitement and joy as I had. I felt really confident going in, being like, well, I know these people, I know these characters. Let's do it.
So when you're not doing stunts and you're not, collecting autographs on this holy grail, you are directing and producing your own things. So, I mean, can you talk about Angel of Death, or is that a project that is sort of, So I've done my research.
I was gonna say you have. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, can you talk about that project? It's a short film. Where are you in the stage of production? What is it about? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so that was the script that I wrote during quarantine. I had a little free time on my hands, so I wrote a script. So right now we were kind of all geared up, ready to go, and then as films do, we had to kind of take a step back. I ended up moving back here to Austin, and now we're actually we're trying to regroup. But it's kind of set in the near to distant future, and it's kind of all about this guy who during the pandemic really tried to help, and it turns out he really didn't. And that's kind of all I could. That's all I can kind of say at the moment. But it's about this just real unassuming nice guy. He had some real big wins and fell into some money, tried to do something good for the world, and it did not go his way.
Oh, that sounds really, really. The thing is, the pandemic, I think, has spawned so many projects. I think in the time of the pandemic, when everything was on lockdown, I think everyone had this burst of sort of creativity, to get these projects written. And there's going to be so many amazing things coming out of the pandemic, even now, even though it happened a few years ago. So talking about your career and your collecting, have you kept any mementos from any of the projects that you've worked on? Have you basically liberated any props or costume pieces?
So when it comes to TV and film, no, I don't think so. Not that I remember. And because of I'm not like the star stunt guy. I'm not the star of the show. I don't want to take anything that I'm not supposed to. Marvel Universe Live, let's just say I've got some mementos. There might be some Wolverine claws in a closet somewhere. Motion capture, there's really nothing to take because it's all imaginary. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there was. No, I don't think I've kind of stolen anything worthwhile from any of these projects.
Do you know what? I'm really amazed that from all that artwork behind you and all the Wolverine related items, you haven't got like a pair of screen used claws, from one of the films. Is that something that you'd love to have on your shelf?
I don't think it as cool as it is. I don't think that's something that I would actively seek out. But I'm not gonna say no if offered. I think movie props, stuff like that. Man, they are really, really cool if you can get something like that. Like especially now with Deadpool and Wolverine coming out, I might have to rethink that and try to get myself something.
Do you know what? I was really gutted. I had an invitation to the UK event a couple of days ago that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman was at, and I couldn't go because I couldn't get the time off. So I was really gutted. A friend of mine went and met Hugh and met Ryan and got all the photos and everything like that. Man. And I was like, damn you. If only it took it down. Yeah, I know. I cannot wait for the film. With the cinema, there are certain films that I will go to the cinema to watch. Like Maverick. Yeah. When Maverick came out, I had to go to the cinema. Yep. Massive Top Gun fan. When Ghostbusters came out. And with Deadpool, I've got to go and watch it at the cinema. I've got to experience it in IMAX, 4DX. Yeah, I want to experience it all because it's been a long time coming to see Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine because he did such a good job in Logan that to see him back at it, I think is going to be amazing. It really is. So thank you so much, Patrick, coming on, showing us your gauntlet of Infinity, of all those autographs. I'm sure we'll cross paths somewhere in one of the conventions if you go to New York Comic Con or somewhere like that. Because have you got Josh Brolin on your I
do.
Yet?
Yeah. Yep.
Ah, okay.
I mean, I have to have that,
Yeah, of course. That's got to be on there because Josh is going to be in New York for New York Comic Con.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I think he's going to be very, very popular there, especially for Thanos and Outer Range, which I thought was an amazing show. But Patrick, you've been a great guest. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Anyone watching, please hit subscribe. And if you want to get in touch with me, it's b.garner@swau.com. Get on this show off your holy grails to the rest of the fandom, and we can talk about collecting and the crazy world it is. It's a very addictive world, isn't it?
It really is. It's again, like this has been an awesome adventure, and I've got no plans to stop until I run out of room. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Run out of room or run out of money. But Patrick, look after yourself. Keep safe, my friend.